Oh boy, finally, the Nishane X Collection fragrances are out. Are you excited for these fragrances? I know you guys have been asking me to do a video on all 5 of the fragrances from the Nishane X Collection, which celebrates 10 years of Nishane fragrances. I've been speaking about Ani X and also Wulong Cha X, but I've got all 5 of them here. We also have Fan Your Flames X, we have Hacivat X, and also 100 Silent Ways X. In this video, I'm going to do a ranked list, ranking from my least favorite of the X fragrances and my most favorite from the X Collection fragrances. Plus, you have a chance at buying these fragrances at 30% off, as there is a sale over at So-Avant-Garde happening and ending today. Normally, it's 20% off with Sebastian 20, but now it's Sebastian 30, saves you 30% off the entire collection, and most everything on the So-Avant-Garde website. Minus the Mind Games fragrances. So if you're curious to learn about Nishane's X Collection fragrances, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, we're talking about Nishane X Collection fragrances. This is a celebration of 10 years of Nishane, and what they've done is, what Nishane has done is basically hired new perfumers for these fragrances, except for Ani, which was created originally by Cecile Zarokian and recreated by Cecile Zarokian, but the rest of the fragrances are now created by IFF perfumers, which includes Julien Rasquinet and Filippo and Miroslav Petkov. So Fan Your Flames is Miroslav Petkov, Wulong Cha and Hacivat X are Julien Rasquinet, and 100 Silent Ways is Anne Filippo, and of course Ani is with Cecile Zarokian. So don't forget to take advantage of the discount code. It ends tonight. If you're in the market for these fragrances, 30% off is a great deal. They're brand spanking new. You can get these discounted currently. But let's go ahead and start with the first fragrance. We're going to Fan Your Flames at number 5. So Fan Your Flames at number 5, because I should say Fan Your Flames X at number 5. I was never the biggest fan of Fan Your Flames. I liked it and I enjoy the fragrance, but I felt like there are other better fragrances from this house that I enjoyed quite more. It's, to me, a kind of a creamy take on, boozy tobacco. But for me, when I first reviewed the original fragrance several years ago, I felt like there was a coffee grounds like vibe here, and I feel like it was a combination of the woods and the tobacco that was creating this kind of like coffee grounds experience for me. But Fan Your Flames X, that's why I felt like, even though the fragrance is not identical to the original Fan Your Flames, the Fan Your Flames X, you still are remembering the original. They've changed it a little bit, but still totally reminiscent of the original fragrance, and so I've ranked Fan Your Flames X here at the bottom at number 5. But Fan Your Flames X features notes of coconuts, tonka beans, tobacco, rum, carrots, thyme, mastic resin, cedar, oakmoss, and patchouli. So what I feel like the original Fan Your Flames does have a bit more roughness, and Fan Your Flames X does seem a bit more rounder, a bit creamier, and less like that kind of dirty, ashy tobacco or kind of like the coffee grounds experience I was having with the original. But in the end, it's not too different from the original fragrance. That's why I've ended up here. Still, it's kind of on the sweet side and very powdery. They have added carrots here in the notes, which creates the powdery effect here. You still experience the booziness. There's definitely some spiciness, but of course, as I said, creamy, kind of gourmand. Not necessarily full-on in-your-face gourmand fragrance here, but it's kind of more bordering the gourmand qualities in Fan Your Flames X in comparison to Fan Your Flames, but still, it's ranked at the bottom. Still not my favorite fragrance, even though they've changed up the fragrance with Fan Your Flames X. Still, I feel like there are better fragrances from Nishane in comparison to Fan Your Flames X or even Fan Your Flames. So if you've sampled Fan Your Flames X, let me know your thoughts on it. If you are a fan of Fan Your Flames, also let me know, because again, as I said, it's not one of my favorite fragrances from Nishane. I do enjoy it, I just don't crave it. It's not like, oh yeah, I want to spray some Fan Your Flames when I think of something like Ani to spray on, or 100 Silent Ways to spray on, or even Hacivat and things like that. So either way, at number 5, it's Fan Your Flames X, created by Miroslav Petkov. This is the first X fragrance that I'm going to talk to you about today. Then we're moving on to Hacivat X, created by Julien Rasquinet. Now, Hacivat is one of my favorite fragrances from Nishane. I absolutely love it. And what they've done here with Hacivat X is kind of smooth it over. Still the same fragrance, but still less fruity than the original. And also less tart and zingy, because the original has that grapefruit note that I feel like it's not so prominent here, and the pineapple is toned down as well. And it's creating like a woody, aromatic, fruity, light fruity, I should say, light citrusy, fragrance experience. But it features notes of lime with orange flower. There's vetiver here, bergamot, pineapple, pink pepper, patchouli, jasmine, cedar. I like the grapefruit in the original, and I also like that kind of sharp, screechy kind of effect the fragrance, has when you're wearing it. I like that about it, and I believe they've removed the Oakmoss, which was very prominent in the original Hacivat, and that's why I feel like this was, kind of lower on the list for me from all the X fragrances. But still, I'm not hating it as much as I shouldn't say I hate Fan Your Flames, but it's just not a very, it's not one of the fragrances that I really crave for, I should say. So it's a style I like, but it's not executed as much as I like. But Hacivat X I can totally wear. I would wear it in the summertime. It's very fresh. It's very woody. It's aromatic. Lightly fruity, lightly citrusy. Although I should say it's citrusy, it's juicy, but kind of the aromatics and the woods and patchouli kind of take over, and it creates for a less juicy effect. And even though the original Hacivat was not juicy because it's kind of dry, that fruitiness kind of gave it this brightness, and also the tangy zestiness of the grapefruit was also creating for something very inviting in comparison to Hacivat X. So this is my opinion here. This is Hacivat X ranked at number 4 out of the 5 different Nishane X fragrances. But what are your thoughts on Hacivat X? Do you enjoy it, or do you prefer the original? Are you even a fan of Hacivat? If you don't know, I recently featured it in the Sexiest Fragrances That Leave the Sexiest Trail video. The original Hacivat. Just really love it. I like its potency. And of course, I like that screechy, woody earthiness from the fragrance, mixed with the tangy zestiness and the zinginess from the grapefruit and the fruitiness of the pineapple, which I feel like are kind of missing in Hacivat X. So I feel like I had a bit of a challenging time deciding on number 3 and number 2. And I think the rest of the fragrances are really great to begin with, so in the collection. Really, really great. So it was a little challenging for me to put something where, but I've ended up putting Ani X at number 3. But it's really closely tied with 100 Silent Ways X. So 100 Silent Ways, well, let's talk about Ani X first, and I'll get to 100 Silent Ways. Ani X is definitely a new take on Ani, created by the same perfumer, Cecile Zarokian, created the original Ani, which launched in 2019, and then she's also remixed it sort of here for this Ani X. And I'm saying remix because I feel like these feel like remixes for me, like song remixes or something, because they're not changing it much. You have most of the same notes, but they've added 1 or 2 new notes and toned down some of the original notes in the fragrances, amplified others to create a new version. So they feel like remixes and things like that. But what Cecile has done here with the Ani X is she's amped it up with lemons. So I recently featured Ani X in a Citrusy Gourmands video, and even though this doesn't go full on gourmand, I felt like it was a great fragrance to add there. And I do enjoy the vanilla in this, along with the cardamom and the ginger, and of course the lemoniness, because that lemon is so beautiful in here, and it just freshens up kind of the warm styles of the fragrance. Even though ginger, cardamom are kind of fresh spices, I feel like it's much fresher now in combination with the warmth of the vanilla in this. So it gives you a bit of a lemon chiffon-like experience, but it's also very, very creamy because the original fragrance had tons of sandalwood, and there's tons of sandalwood with Ani X as well. There's green apple here, so there's some fruitiness, but for me, this is all about the cardamom, the vanilla, the lemons, the ginger, and I would say the bergamot and the patchouli as well. Really, really delicious fragrance. I had a difficult time. It's like a toss-up between Ani X and the next one, but I ended up putting Ani X here because it's super delicious, and I really, really love Ani X. And as I said, 3, 2, 1 are the best out of the collection here for me, at least. And even though they remind me of their original fragrances, I think these are great takes on something. If you want a different change, like a change of pace kind of a thing with a familiar fragrance you're wearing over and over again, you thought, okay, you know what? Now it's time for me to change it up a little bit. Let's add a little lemon to Ani and kind of make it a bit fresher kind of a thing. So either way, Ani X at number 3. Let me know your thoughts on Ani X. Do you like it? Are you a fan of the original? I know Ani is a very popular fragrance for Nishane, so let me know if you've been a fan of the original. Are you curious to check out the Ani X if you haven't already? So I did it. I put 100 Silent Ways at number 2. But as I was saying, it's very closely tied with Ani. I think it was a toss-up for me. And 100 Silent Ways, the original, has become such a great fragrance for me. It was never one of the original fragrances that I enjoyed, because when 100 Silent Ways launched, I believe it launched with Hacivat, and it was all the rage. Hacivat was the rage. But 100 Silent Ways is super, super delicious. It's kind of an amber floral fragrance with woods and fruitiness. So really enjoyed it. And what Anne Flippo has done here is really made it uber creamy and intensified the kind of the white floral notes in here. And I feel like sometimes when you overdo white flowers, especially gardenia, because 100 Silent Ways and 100 Silent Ways X have a pretty potent gardenia note, there's definitely a very creamy vibe about it. And I get a kind of a creamy lactonic vibe with this one. Of course, there's some sandalwoody touches in here as well. I believe there was sandalwood in the original. They're not mentioning sandalwood here, but this fragrance is super delicious. But 100 Silent Ways X has leather, peach, vanilla, orris, jasmine, heliotrope, mandarin, gardenia, tuberose, and patchouli. So in the end, it's sweet and powdery. Very, very floral. You must be into white flowers to enjoy this. And as of late, I'm really enjoying white flowers, and this has really, really grown on me. The original, as I'm saying. And this version feels really, really great wearing it. And when I put it on, it becomes very, very lactonic and milky creamy on me, which I quite like. And it adds this kind of a cozy layer to the fragrance. And what I always mention is layering Hacivat with 100 Silent Ways creates for this most intoxicating smell. Now I can't wait to layer 100 Silent Ways X with Hacivat and also 100 Silent Ways X with Hacivat X, because I haven't done any layering yet, but I want to see how these layer. But I feel like 100 Silent Ways X will layer perfectly with Hacivat, and maybe it will layer with Hacivat X as well, but I feel like the Hacivat has that kind of screechiness that, as I mentioned, Hacivat X does not. But this is super, super delicious. It does dry down to a leathery quality. There's definitely the amplification of leather with this version in comparison to the original, and that's what I feel like Anne Flippo has done. But the leather is not very animalic to me. It's also kind of smooth and buttery, hence the fact that the fragrance wears very, very, very creamy to me. One word about Anne Flippo, I feel like this woman, this perfumer, does really good with white flowers. Everything that I see from her are white floral fragrances, especially something like Synthetic Jungle, featuring green florals and white flowers, and a few other fragrances of hers. And here, I think she's done a great job with this. I absolutely really love it, and that's why I've put it here at number 2. And again, it was a tough decision between Ani X and 100 Silent Ways X. And so 100 Silent Ways X wins out at number 2. And my favorite of the bunch is Wulong Cha X, created by Julien Rasquinet. So I was a fan of Ambra Calabria. Sadly, Ambra Calabria didn't make it in the X. I feel like they should have skipped the Fan Your Flames and then done Ambra Calabria. But I feel like Ambra Calabria is not as popular as Fan Your Flames, so they've done Fan Your Flames. But I absolutely love Ambra Calabria, and I felt like there were some similarities between Ambra Calabria and Wulong Cha. In the end, they're kind of green fragrances, fresh, but they go in different direction, whereas Ambra Calabria is an amber that's green and fresh, and of course, Wulong Cha is a tea fragrance, kind of green and powdery and floral and citrusy as well. Very, very cozy. But what Julien Rasquinet has done with Wulong Cha X is give it some floral depth to the fragrance, whereas the original is all tea, citruses, earthy, cozy, a bit floral and powdery. Here, the depth with the magnolia note that is in here gives it another creamy vibe to the fragrance. Magnolia to me is a white flower that's not very substantial in smell. It doesn't really smell a lot like jasmine or tuberose, even gardenia. It has a light floral smell and also a bit of a lemoniness, so it really complements perfectly with Wulong Cha. If you know of any magnolia trees that's bloomed with loads of magnolias, go under it after, a day of sunshine and heat. Smell. There's a smell there. It's a kind of a light lemon and light floral smell, which is very, very intoxicating. You have to have a pretty strong nose to smell it because it's also not strong. Here, I think it's perfect with Wulong Cha, the perfect floral note to enhance the fragrance. I think it's toning down a little bit of the tea qualities because the original is all tea for me, and here amplifying it with the magnolia note to give it that kind of creamy floral depth the fragrance might need. I think it's still a very fresh fragrance to wear, but now we've got the addition of that kind of depth with the magnolia note, which I find to be perfect here. Again, this is a really, really great freshie, really, really enjoyed. I enjoy the original, which is here, and I really enjoy the X as well. And again, it was a late discovery for me because I feel like, let's try and focus this, and I feel like Wulong Cha does have a bit of similarities with Ambra Calabria, but they're different, as I said. That's why it was more of a late discovery, but I'm absolutely head over heels for both versions. Both versions are really, really great. It depends on my mood and what I want to wear. If I want to wear the tea fragrance without any floral touches, I would go with the original. But if I want some floral, creamy depth, I would go with Wulong Cha X. So that's why I'm putting it at my number one favorite, as my number one favorite fragrance. But as I said, the top three here are amazing. Absolutely love it. Really, really love the top three. And it's a kind of a toss-up, but I've decided to do it this way because I'm really, really enjoying the way Wulong Cha X smells here at number 1, 100 Silent Ways X at number 2, and Ani X at number 3. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the Nishane X Collection fragrances. It's 10 years of Nishane. I first discovered Nishane in 2015. I believe it was a video I did from samples that they had sent me with a guest. You can look it up. It's a fairly old video. So I've known them for almost 10 years, not quite. And I think they've really definitely grown, and now you see their fragrances all over the place. But as I was saying earlier also, don't forget to take advantage of that discount code. 30% off So-Avant-Garde ends tonight. If you're in the market for these fragrances, definitely use that code before the code expires. It's Sebastian30. After today, the code you can use is Sebastian20, and it saves you 20% off on the So-Avant-Garde website. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on the Nishane X Collection fragrances. Again, I feel like this is just a celebration of 10 years. This is not these fragrances. I personally think these fragrances are not created to replace the original fragrances. They're just a celebration, and they've decided to kind of offer us some variations on the original fragrances. You might still prefer the originals, or you might have hated the originals and fall in love with one of the new ones here. Definitely get your nose on these, and that's pretty much it for today's video, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.